What is up, guys? My name is Lex. We are here at Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. It is a slightly rainy Saturday evening, around 68 degrees. Not too bad for January in Florida. Tonight we're going to be playing a 5-10 no-limit session. I'm hoping I can get some interesting hands for the vlog. I've tried 2 times earlier this week to film content, to make a poker vlog, and during those sessions I just got nothing going. No interesting hands for 4 to 5 hours. Just a lot of small to medium-sized pots. Not enough interesting content to make a complete poker vlog with. So this is my 3rd time trying to make a poker vlog here at Seminole Hard Rock. Hopefully it goes better tonight. I'm hoping I win some pots, but you never know. When you sit down at the poker table, it could go good, it could go bad. Let's get down to the table. Let's get to the action. Let's go. All right, first hand here. Small blind calls $25. Big blind raises to $150. I'm in the strata with ace queen suited, and I like to just call instead of 3-bet. Small blind comes along with a call as well. We go 3 ways to Jack 10-4. It checks to the big blind, who bets out $150. With 2 overcards and a gut shot straight draw to the nuts, I make the call. Turn card 8, my opponent now slows down and checks over to me. I think this is a close spot between turning our hand into a bluff or just taking our ace high to showdown. I do actually think it's okay to bet here sometimes. I can get hands like ace queen that we're chopping with to fold. I can also get hands like ace-king to fold as well, and maybe even a hand like ace-10 or king-10 suited will fold if I bet here on the turn and then bet again on the river. So I decided to go with a $300 bet, looking to continue big on the final card. The only card I won't be betting is a queen, just because if a queen comes, then ace-king is a straight. I just don't think I'll be betting if that final card comes out a queen, which is exactly what happens. Queen on the river, giving me top pair top kicker. When he checks, I check back, and he shows ace-king offsuit for the best hand possible, the nut straight. He needed our queen, we needed his king. He ends up getting the card, and he ends up getting the pot. If you guys have been following along the last couple months, I haven't been running the greatest. I told you guys last video that I was down around $30,000 in the last 2 months of playing poker, so we are definitely in the midst of a downswing. This next hand comes up I don't actually have on video, so I'm going to do a still shot background. Same player from last hand on my right, calls in the big blind for $25. I have 8-3 offsuit in the straddle. It's a free flop, so I check my option and flop 2 pair on 8-3-7 with 2 hearts. My opponent leads out for a $50 bet, pot size, and I raise him right away with my 2 pair to $200, and he makes the call. Turn card's a 9, he checks over to me again. I size up for a $350 bet, and he makes the call again. The final card, one of the worst in the deck, it's a 7, now counterfeiting my 2 pair. We lose to a slow played over pair, we lose to some 8s, we lose to a 9. So when he checks to me, I check this one back, and we lose to 9-10 offsuit. Like I said, downswing is definitely downswinging. This is just a small example of the hands I've been going through the past 2 months where you just lose small to medium-sized pots, but they do add up, of course, losing around $600 in this hand. All right, we got the camera back on for this hand. There's a hijack call for 25, cutoff call for 25, king-queen suited on the button for me. I raise to 125, looking to isolate these limpers, but that doesn't happen when the big blind player re-raises me to $500. Both of the limpers get out of the way and the action's back over on me. You may be thinking to yourself, you have an easy decision here, just let go of this king-queen offsuit. He must have hands like aces or kings. And I would have to disagree with you. In this game, there is a lot of raising and re-raising, especially in late position versus the blinds. I opened up here on the button and my opponent re-raised out of the big blind some of the loosest positions for raising and re-raising pre-flop. If my opponent raised under the gun and I re-raised him under the gun +1, that could signify a lot of strength. Given the fact that I opened on the button, he may think I have a wider range and maybe he's trying to steal this pot. So I have a couple options. I could call and leave myself with around $2,000 left to play for. I can make a pretty tight fold, or I could try to steal the stealer and go all in. I do think out of the big blind versus my button open, he can have a lot of hands like ace-queen offsuit that will fold to an all-in, hands like pocket nines that may fold to an all-in. He can have ace-jack suited, king-queen off, so you guys get the picture. I think he could be wide here, so I'm going to go for it, and I announce a 4-bet of all-in. $2,500 going in the middle, and we get very quickly called. Not what I was looking to see. He says once or twice in. I usually go one time. However, I've been running so bad, I want to try to reduce the variance, so I say let's go twice, and then he shows me pocket aces. Oh, shit. We ran right into the nuts. We're going to have to get lucky here. We do have 10 cards to try to improve. On the first flop, we hit top pair, and we turned 2 pair. That is what I'm talking about. Looks like we're going to win that one. The second board comes out with 2 hearts. If we hit a heart on this board, we could scoop, but we do not. We end up chopping here against pocket aces, which I will say is a win-win for us. A little anticlimactic. Kind of funny because I usually just go one time whenever I'm recording for a vlog. But because I was down so much money in the last 2 months, I wanted to go twice. And it turns out it cost me $2,500. Somewhat of a punty play pre-flop, but I actually don't mind it. Button versus big blind. Unfortunately, we ran right into the nuts this time, but got lucky to chop this one up. Alright, about an hour later, the hijack opens to 75. I have queen jack offsuit in the cutoff, a hand I don't really want to call with, but I could turn into a 3-bet bluff, which is what I do. I make it $250 and my opponent makes the call. Heads up, in position to a king-high board, giving me an open-ended straight draw. Any ace, any 9 will give us a very strong hand. My opponent checks, and I'm definitely going to be betting this board with queen high. We have a lot of equity here, and also the range advantage. We can have kings, pocket 10s, ace, king, aces. So I make it $325 to go. Back over to my opponent who makes the call. Feel like he can still have some weak-ish hands once he calls here. Could have a 10x hand, could have a gut shot straight draw, could maybe have some king x hands, but I feel like he would re-raise pre-flop with ace king. So when the turn card's a 4 of clubs and he checks to me for a second time, I'm definitely going to continue to barrel. I think I can get a lot of hands to fold if I bet again here on the turn. A lot of hands like ace 10, jack 10 will fold. All smaller pocket pairs of the board will fold. Hands like ace queen should fold as well. So I fire out $525. If my opponent calls this $525 bet, he's going to have $1,800 left on the river, which sets us up for a pretty nice all-in if we get there with our straight. And also, we could go all-in as a bluff if we miss. My opponent makes the call for $525. I feel like a lot of the time he's going to have a top pair holding. We need to get there on the river, and we kind of do. It's a queen, giving us second pair. So now we're beating all 10x hands. Jack 9 and ace jack now makes a straight. He checks over to me, and now I have to make a decision. Is my hand good enough to just check back and try to win at showdown against some of his 10x hands that he called with? Or I could try to continue to bluff and get him to fold out hands like king jack and ace king. Ultimately, I decide to just check this one back, and he shows ace queen for a pair of queens with an ace kicker, which is going to beat our pair of queens with a jack kicker. And after looking at his hand and at the board and redoing the hand history in my head, I'm thinking, what the heck was this guy doing? He called on the flop for $325 with a gut shot straight draw. Okay, I can see it. He called again on the turn with just ace high for $525. I guess he was just praying and hoping. A little unfortunate for us to hit a pair because I think I would have gone for a triple barrel bluff had I not hit a pair. This guy on my right has had our number today. He just keeps beating me in every single pot, but that may change when I peel back pocket aces. There's a call for $25, and the player to my right who keeps beating me in hands raises to $125. I re-raise him to $375, and the action's back over on him. I'm hoping he thinks I'm getting out of line here, which I have been so far this session. I've been re-raising him kind of light. I went all in early with king, queen of hearts. Maybe he'll put in a 4-bet of his own, but he doesn't. However, it's his second best option. He ends up making the call, so we're in a great spot here. Pocket aces, best hand you can get pre-flop. Heads up, in position to a board of king 7-3, all spades. He checks over to me. I look down at my cards to see if I have the ace of spades, and I do not. I actually don't really like this flop. it's going to be hard to get max value from hands like 8s, 9s, and 10s on this particular board, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to bet. I make it $250, and he ends up making the call. The turn card is a very good one. It is a deuce of hearts. Now, this player was very sticky earlier, calling my 3-bet with ace-queen, calling on the flop with ace-high, and then calling on the turn with ace-high. So when I actually have a big hand, I definitely want to bet against this guy, which is what I do. I now size up to $650. Against some players who play very nitty and tight, if I bet here for $650 and got called with a one-pair hand, I would be worried that I could be behind. Now, this guy is not tight or not nitty. He can have a lot of hands in this situation, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to go for 3 streets for max value in this hand if he does decide to call, which he does. This pot is brewing here, over $2,000+ in the middle to the final card, which is a 9. Now, this only changes things if he has king 9 or pocket 9s with a spade. He checks over to me. He's got around $2,000 left in his stack. The pot is well over $2,000 in the middle. I think I'm just going to go for max value. I don't think he flopped a set. He shouldn't have 2 pair. I'm praying he didn't flop a flush. Think he can have a lot of hands like king 10, king jack, king queen, ace king. So I'm going to go for it and announce all in. It doesn't matter how long I've been playing poker or how many big pots I've won or lost. Anytime I'm all in for a significant amount of money on the river, my heart rate always spikes and increases. I'm all in here for over $2,000. The pot is big. If he calls, this will be over a $6,000 pot, which will help us get back some of our $30,000 that we've been losing over the past 2 months. Now that my opponent hasn't snap called my bet, I feel pretty comfortable that aces is the best hand. If he flopped a set, had 2 pair, or a flush, I don't think he would ever be thinking about it for this long. So the more that he's thinking, the more that I want him to call. And after about 90 seconds, he eventually folds his cards. He later told me he had the ace of spades, so not really sure what he was thinking about it there on the river. Either way, our stack is now up over $5,000, winning a decent pot there, leading in to the last hand of the night. My opponent in this hand has been given some big action all night. He's been playing a lot of hands, swinging big, losing and winning some big pots, and this time we've got kings up against his call for $25. So I'm going to re-raise and try to isolate him with such a strong hand. I make it $100 on the button, and he ends up making the call. Heads up, in position with pocket queens to a very good board, queen 6-3. Obviously no ace on the flop. It's very unconnected, pretty dry. He shouldn't have pocket queens given the fact that he just limp called pre-flop. So I feel very, very confident about my kings. I make it 125 and he ends up making the call. I think the best turn card in the deck comes out when it pairs the bottom card with a 3. The reason that this card is so great is because it reduces the likelihood that he has a hand like pocket 3s, given the fact that there is now 2 on the board. It also now counterfeits him if he has a hand like queen jack or queen 10 and hits a 10 or a jack on the river. I'm going to continue for a $300 bet here. I don't want to get too greedy against this guy. I think that if I overbet the size of the pot, he may fold out hands that he would call with, and he does decide to call for $300. Final card is a jack, which I think is a pretty great run out for me. Even if he does have queen jack for 2 pair, we have a bigger 2 pair with our kings and 3s. He checks to me for a 3rd time, and now I have to figure out what sizing I want to go here on the river. Pot's got over $1,000. He's most likely going to have a top pair holding after calling on the flop and the turn, so I go big. 8 black chips going in the middle here for an $800 bet. My opponent looks a little bit frustrated, but once he peels out 8 black chips of his own, he decides to match my bet and put in a call. I show pocket kings and he shows ace queen. Wow, a pretty sick cooler there. Top pair, top kicker versus an over pair. We end up closing this one out. Our last hand of the night with a pretty decent pot. I end up profiting $2,400 on this session, getting a little bit back after having a pretty bad 2 months. It's a step in the right direction. I hope you guys like this video. Please comment down below, subscribe to the channel, more poker videos just like this in the future, and until next time, I'll see ya.